this whole concept of an MCP, it's all over my LinkedIn. Everyone's saying, or it feels like everyone's saying, hook up Claude, plug it straight into Amazon. I'll take a strong position here. I think it's absolute nonsense that a large brand, like an enterprise brand, let's say doing tens of millions of dollars of GMV per month, or with huge ad spend, let's say 500,000 a month in ad spend, would just literally at this moment in time at least get an MCP from Amazon and plug in Claude no matter what model you're using, and then have it manage the business.
Defining running something effectively, running a business is important. MCP acts as the bridge here between someone like Amazon and someone like Claude. If I enable that MCP, enable the data to flow through, and have processes set up in place with Claude as an example, I would be pretty confident in Claude being able to run and manage things with that business to a certain degree. The model context protocol, as it stands, is a useful utility for people today to plug into and operate as an e-commerce business. That's what I think. I don't know if you would agree with that stance.
I just think, well, look, let's start with what it is. I mean, I think a lot of people love these buzzwords. I think, with all this AI stuff out there, there's a lot of non-technical people out there that are super excited, and I can totally see why. And I'm not trying to judge anyone, and I'm doing it myself. So I just want to add that disclaimer. But like, look, all an MCP is it's effectively a glorified API, right? Anthropic invented it. Model context protocols, basically a way for a company like an Amazon or any large company or any company actually to develop an API to talk to an LLM. And so if we just start with that, it's not some incredible mystical thing. And, this huge buzz on LinkedIn or wherever it is about like it being AI itself, all it is basically an API so an LLM can talk. And it gives it more context so the LLM knows what to query. And we're building on them and so on. So I think that's the first thing I think of. And then this
Can I
idea that
ask,
yeah,
before we move
sure.
on, this is part of the
Yeah,
definition
yeah, yeah.
that
Of
will, I think, help me and help people listening as
course.
well.
Yeah.
Why is this new process creates a whole different workflow for businesses, enables a whole different workflow for businesses? What did it change? Like what did not enable someone like Amazon to communicate with Claude as easily before?
Well, I mean, it's simply put, it's because it's got to have that context, right? You can't, I mean, these are large language models by definition. And what I find, really interesting is all these different, variants like on Claude, like the, Opus 4.7, you're using it for like, XYZ, deeper reasoning. And then you've got Haiku 4.5 and they've all got these different nuances of what they've been used for.
Hmm,
And that's sort of innovating, and you can kind of see these iterations being released at a crazy rate. But look, those things don't mean anything if they don't have the right inputs. Claude right now and tools like that are really, really good at like passing through data, doing analytics, stuff like that. I'm sure you've been doing that as well, Cam. But I think the right piece. Are you going to let it rip on $500,000 a month of ad spend, as an example, make changes to your campaigns without any middle layer? I think is a stretch. And so, while I think, anyway, that's kind of
What
my
what's
position.
the
What do you
right?
think?
What's define writing, and define that middle layer, because the middle layer to you is important. I want to make sure those are defined pretty clearly.
I've seen a number of companies out there that who have offered MCP connectivity to Amazon data to be able to do analytics. That's a really good use case, right? I totally get that. Pulling data in, and instead of wading through spreadsheets or using BI tools, you can query Claude to understand like what happened. We're doing some of that stuff as well. But the right part, meaning, would you then let Claude publish and change your campaigns or edit your Amazon account?
I see.
I think there's, certainly the value of and then you're starting to talk about like truly agentic, right? Like, would Claude replace your marketing team? I mean, what do you think? In your role, you're
Yeah.
helping us a lot with your marketing. I mean,
Here's the
are
thing.
you
Here's
just
the
going to
thing.
let it do everything?
Here's the thing. I would let it do a lot. I think I would let it do a lot, especially at first. Now, would I trust it at first? Maybe not completely, but I would let it do a lot. I would let it run, and I would see what the results look like. I think I would want to. I see an analogy here of uh uh what we're talking about. MCP is not ChatGPT. It's not Claude. It's a completely
But
different.
like our LinkedIn ads, right, that you're
Sure.
working on with us, like, okay, so let's just make up numbers here, like $50,000 a month of LinkedIn ad spend. Would you let Claude like literally optimize and make all of those changes, like actually directly onto that P&L? And let's 10x that for some of our large Amazon customers, Amazon brands doing 500,000 a month. Like, would you literally let it do that against that level of ad spend and GMV?
Would let it run a percentage of that full budget for sure. I would.
Interesting. Because it could be better than an employee as long as you're telling it what to do.
And you're
I think
directing.
that,
Now there are caveats. There are caveats for sure. The analogy I was going to use is I think of leveraging ChatGPT and Claude for the first time. A lot of people were hesitant to integrate it into their businesses at first. Some were not, but into their businesses completely. Now, those models changed over time. When they were first released, they weren't as good as they are now. And yet people still integrated, and some waited until they were at the right point to integrate into their business. But if you integrated quickly, you were at an advantage. I see a similar analogy here where if you integrate quickly, and again, maybe it's not the full budget, but you
yeah.
integrate and you get started in integrating some of these processes and how you're doing, I could see that giving you an advantage over time for sure.
I think the issue, well, it's interesting. And as you're talking, I can see what you mean about like partially automating stuff. And I think that's actually the biggest issue with these claims, we're just going to completely automate this with something like Claude, like a large language model. I think the gap is what data are you going to get out of that Amazon database? For example, in the case of advertising, you're going to have a lot of feedback around bid settings, bid adjustments. Like that's what tools like us, that's
Mm-hmm.
what Teikametrics is doing. You're not going to be able to get them out of Amazon because it's not even in there. Or if you're talking about optimizing between Amazon and TikTok as an example, that's something that we're increasingly doing, or between Amazon and Walmart. You've got that kind of, you're only as good as the data you're getting from
Yeah,
the Amazon through that MCP. So
I
that's
see that.
one obvious one. I mean, look, the concept of like, would we let an AI control the business? I mean, obviously, the answer is yes. I think it's like letting the whole business be run by an LLM, which is sort of more generic.
Hmm.
Obviously, Claude is really, really good at so many different things. But I think in the space of managing a marketplace business, you need to give it more data and more inputs. And so there really needs to be like a middle layer, and there needs to be an interface. I mean, the other obvious one that you can think about is the fact that it's effectively conversational, right?
Yeah,
Like, where are you going to review all the changes? Where are you going to be able to see like what it did? And a lot of these LLM models are about at least today, right? This is a lot of this is caveated with where we are today. Where are you going to see those changes? Where are you going to see that history? And I think it's really, really good for querying through like a conversational layer that it can like allow you to either literally talk to it or type to it. But where are you going to be able to see those changes? Where are you going to be able to have that interface? I don't think you can go straight from Claude into Amazon. There
sure.
has to be some middle layer. I mean, this is what's so interesting about this whole thing. Did you hear the Nvidia executive basically saying like every software company is just going to come become a token factory for us?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
basically what he's saying is that you're like every software company is just going to be powered by these LLMs.
Mm,
And of course, a lot of these are powered by Nvidia or hardware companies, and it kind of makes sense. But like, then you're going to be billed, right, for all of the queries that you're doing. And I,
yeah,
I just think if you're I mean, you just need it, your own database, or you need some access, and it's a very expensive way to manage data just through an
Yeah, yeah.
MCP. I mean, then what are you doing then? Are you creating like a software development role to build that kind of app?
Potentially,
I mean, that
potentially.
potentially.
I mean, maybe these enterprise brands are changing how what it means to operate an MCP, operate through an MCP, right? Maybe you're bringing on different types of people than you normally would. Like instead of bringing on an analyst, you're bringing on another type of role. And this is another point that I think is worth bringing up: is what maybe can an MCP replace when it comes to headcount? Can it replace anyone when it comes to headcount? Can you combine three operators into one? I think so. I think the potential's there,
Did
but
you see this? What you're saying reminds me of the that article. Did you see it about Anthropic actually having one person running marketing uh, for a certain period? I think clearly they've got a marketing team now, but it's a really interesting
believe it.
article. Did you see that? Like they had
I
one
I
guy basically doing everything.
I haven't seen that. It does not surprise me in terms of what one
That
person
would
could
be,
do. It's a good
yeah.
use case from the company for the company.
If I wasn't, of course, some might hear this and think I'm like really biased because I'm, running Teikametrics, but I think if I was on my own running a brand and I really, really wanted to use this concept of Claude plus an MCP, I would want to build my own application
Hmm.
to ultimately be that middle layer to, ingest things that are unique. You'd want your own database. You wouldn't just want to rely on these two giants, right? Like
Yeah.
which is Amazon and then, Anthropic in the Claude sense. And you would want like some piece that you can own and control, whether it be a historical interface to be able to, an interface to look at the historical changes that you're making, suck in other parts of data from other channels or other parts of bid changes. And so I think that architecture would make the most sense, to be honest. It's just like a different situation and a different
Hmm.
use case when you're talking about needing to have a database. I mean that's there's
Yeah.
large language model, and then you're pulling through a pipe, which is the MCP, and then the database is Amazon. There needs to be a middle database, or at least a safe place that you can control. And so, again, it's like specific use cases, right? Like pulling stuff out of Amazon to do analysis, that makes sense. Or pulling stuff and trying to look at like your TikTok campaigns, that makes sense.
Hmm.
But trying to like build like a fully operational platform would be tough. And again, like of course people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, well, of course, he's worried about Claude wiping out Teikametrics. Just as a segue on that, it is interesting to see what LLMs are gonna sort of eat people's lunch in the software side,
Yeah.
and which verticals they go into. And I think in certain categories they're really ripe, and there's like a very sort of clear path to eating their lunch.
Hmm.
And one of the examples I think is like in legal tools. There's so much like passing of text, and you could just see like that being. I just think running these Amazon businesses, and it's not just an Amazon business, right? It's like effectively a multi-channel platform with lots of different MCPs talking to each other.
Hmm.
It's harder. I'm more worried. I mean, just to be vulnerable here and just be sort of candid. I mean, I'm more worried about in terms of like our day job at Teikametrics, Cameron, of just a company that is literally so lean, and it's you read about these sort of one person companies or very few employees
Hmm.
just like going all in on like an agentic strategy from day one, where we've had to build all these UIs and these old school views, which have mock-ups and prototyping, and the user has to go in. I thought, I know we use HubSpot in the marketing team. Have you seen that Breeze agent? I was
Yeah.
hacking around in HubSpot because I had to do a landing page for something, and it's like pretty crazy. It's all of those annoying workflows in HubSpot, which are really well designed. I mean, HubSpot's a really good product,
Yeah.
and it was like how to create all these different form fields, which are net new,
Mhm.
And then it worked really well actually. There's this like pop out that says, "Do you want to activate Breeze?" Luckily had the master admin still, which I probably shouldn't have, and then just switched it on. And then I was just like, okay, I'm just going to try building this whole workflow
Yeah,
in natural language. That was pretty cool. And then in HubSpot, you've got that everywhere. Like
pretty good.
that's pretty cool. It's like, I mean, that's where I think things are going to go the most, where you just don't need as many screens, you don't need as much classical SaaS software.
Yeah,
And the HubSpot one was literally creating fields in our HubSpot database.
yeah,
I believe like Salesforce and others. And so I know we're building that, but that to me would be the Teikametrics killer, right? Like this idea that there's an entire agentic piece of software, using MCPs, coming back to MCPs,
yeah.
is using MCPs. It's got all the different pipes, and it's just this like really lean, really lightweight UI.
Mhm.
Um, and it just does everything. I mean, that's, well,
It-
we're building that, but it's just a lot easier to sort of start with that framework and um,
yeah. I if I'm building up, so I'm building off this idea for a little bit because that's a good example. Zapier is another good example, I think, of like how they leverage AI to just type in a flow you want to automate, and it builds or attempts to build an automation for you. I realistically, I think people could plug in to MCP for something like advertising, and it's worth a test. I think that's what I would want people to consider is it's worth a test today. But I think the true power actually probably comes more so from companies like Teikametrics plugging into MCP and seeing what can come from that. Because we've been building these pathways, not MCP necessarily, but we've been building marketplace optimization pathways for years. And it's not that uh, brands and sellers aren't going to be able to build something themselves. They are going to be able to. It's a question of how much time and resources probably do you want to put into it as a brand to
yeah,
achieve
yeah.
maybe a lesser result even. If you're listening to this, dive into MCP. Like obviously, Alistair and I we agreed on a lot of things, and also maybe had different stances on a couple others. I think you should look into MCP. If the one thing's coming from me, start to research it, start to dig in. You don't have to make any crazy choices, but understand what it enables brands to do.
Well, maybe we should run an experiment. And I mean, look, I don't think anytime soon, at least our customers, these bigger ones that we're working with now, who are really also not even switching away from needing a human in the loop. Back to the name of this podcast, right? They're like they want the strategic advice. They just don't want the software. And I think if you gave some of our customers just like the product itself and whether it's an LLM, I think that would be difficult. So there's just continues to be this sort of human layer, which I think is interesting. But look, well, I mean, I think what we should do, maybe you and I should buy a brand and just see if we can just build the entire business with, I mean, that would be a good
Test
marketing thing, right? Like 0 to 10 million
only.
with an LLM and an MCP. I mean, why don't we try doing it? I know maybe that's another episode, Cameron.
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
maybe that's a good stopping point for this episode. Next time we'll come back and we'll have launched this mission to build a brand. You can think about what we're actually going to sell,
Okay. Well, we
or
should use AI
or
to figure
we.
out what we're going to sell.
Oh yeah, good idea.